On July 20th, 1969, the world watched in awe as Neil Armstrong took his one small step onto the lunar surface. This moment was broadcast live to millions of viewers around the globe, uniting people in a shared experience of wonder and achievement. The Apollo 11 mission, a culmination of years of intense research, innovation, and bravery, symbolized humanity's boundless potential and our relentless pursuit of knowledge. This monumental achievement marked a turning point in human history. It was not just a victory for the United States in the space race, but a triumph for all of humankind. The successful landing on the moon was a testament to what we can achieve when we dare to dream big and work together towards a common goal. The celebrations that followed were filled with joy, pride, and a sense of collective accomplishment. Yet, even as the celebrations echoed across the globe, seeds of doubt were being sown. In the midst of the jubilation, there were whispers and murmurs of skepticism. Some individuals began to question the authenticity of the moon landing, unable to reconcile the extraordinary nature of the event with their own understanding of reality. These doubts, initially dismissed as fringe beliefs, slowly began to gain traction. Whispers of a grand deception began to circulate, eventually blossoming into the persistent fake moon landing conspiracy theory. This theory posited that the entire Apollo 11 mission was an elaborate hoax orchestrated by NASA and the US government to assert dominance in the Cold War. Proponents of this theory pointed to supposed inconsistencies in the footage and photographs, as well as the technological limitations of the time, as evidence of the alleged fraud. This theory, claiming that the Apollo 11 mission was staged, has captivated imaginations and fueled debate for decades. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, the idea of a faked moon landing has persisted, evolving and adapting over time. The notion of a staged event, complete with studio lights and fabricated backdrops, has become a staple of conspiracy lore, intriguing both skeptics and curious minds alike. While seemingly outlandish, the theory's endurance speaks to a deeper human tendency, our fascination with the unknown and our susceptibility to narratives that challenge established truths. The moon landing conspiracy theory taps into a fundamental aspect of human psychology, the desire to question and explore beyond the surface. It reflects our innate curiosity and our willingness to entertain alternative explanations, even in the face of substantial evidence. This essay will delve into the heart of this conspiracy, examining the claims, the science, and the psychology that keeps it alive. We will explore the origins of the theory, the key arguments put forth by its proponents, and the scientific rebuttals that debunk these claims. Additionally, we will consider the psychological factors that contribute to the theory's persistence, shedding light on why such conspiracies continue to captivate and divide public opinion. Conspiracy theorists often point to perceived inconsistencies in the visual record from the moon landing as proof of a hoax. They meticulously analyze every photograph and video, searching for anomalies that could suggest the entire event was staged. These individuals are convinced that the government orchestrated an elaborate deception, and they believe the visual evidence supports their claims. One of the most common claims revolves around the shadows cast by objects in the lunar photographs. Conspiracy theorists argue that the shadows should be perfectly parallel if they were cast by a single light source, such as the sun. They point to instances where shadows appear to diverge or converge, suggesting the presence of multiple light sources, which they believe indicates a staged set. They argue that these shadows, appearing non-parallel in some instances, are evidence of multiple light sources, suggesting a staged set. This theory is bolstered by comparisons to studio lighting, where multiple lights are used to create specific shadow effects. The theorists claim that the moon landing photos exhibit similar characteristics, further fueling their suspicions. However, this argument overlooks a simple explanation: perspective. On Earth, we see parallel lines, such as railroad tracks, appear to converge in the distance due to the principles of perspective. This optical illusion is a well-documented phenomenon and is easily observed in everyday life. The same principles apply to the shadows on the moon. Just as parallel lines on Earth appear to converge in the distance, the curvature of the moon's surface can create the illusion of non-parallel shadows, even with a single light source, the sun. The uneven terrain of the lunar surface further contributes to this effect, causing shadows to appear at different angles. This natural phenomenon can easily explain the perceived inconsistencies in the photographs. Another popular claim questions the absence of stars in the Apollo photographs. Conspiracy theorists argue that a real moon landing would have captured a backdrop of brilliant stars. They believe that the lack of stars in the photos is evidence that the images were taken on a soundstage, where the stars were simply forgotten or omitted. Conspiracy theorists argue that a real moon landing would have captured a backdrop of brilliant stars. They believe that the lack of stars in the photos is evidence that the images were taken on a soundstage, where the stars were simply forgotten or omitted. This claim is often repeated in discussions about the moon landing, and it has become one of the most enduring arguments in the conspiracy theory arsenal. Yet, this argument betrays a misunderstanding of basic photography. When taking a photograph of a brightly lit object, such as the lunar surface or an astronaut in a white spacesuit, the camera settings must be adjusted to properly expose the subject. This involves using a fast shutter speed and a small aperture, which limits the amount of light entering the camera. Capturing a brightly lit object, like the lunar surface or an astronaut in a white spacesuit, requires a fast shutter speed and small aperture, which limits the amount of light entering the camera. These settings are necessary to prevent the image from being overexposed and to ensure that the details of the subject are clearly visible. This setting, while ideal for capturing the foreground subject, renders faint objects like stars invisible. The stars, being much dimmer than the brightly lit lunar surface, do not emit enough light to be captured with these camera settings. As a result, they do not appear in the photographs, which is a perfectly normal outcome given the circumstances. This explanation aligns with the principles of photography and provides a logical reason for the absence of stars in the Apollo images. Perhaps the most enduring image associated with the moon landing is that of the American flag, seemingly waving in the breeze. This iconic image has been the subject of countless discussions and debates over the years. The sight of the flag with its ripples and folds has led many to question the authenticity of the moon landing. How could a flag wave in a place with no atmosphere? This question has fueled conspiracy theories for decades. Conspiracy theorists seize upon this image as irrefutable proof of fakery, as there is no wind on the moon. They argue that the flag's movement is evidence that the entire event was staged on Earth, perhaps in a secret studio. These theories often gain traction in popular culture, with documentaries, books, and online forums dedicated to dissecting every detail of the moon landing footage. However, a closer look reveals a simple explanation: physics. The flag was not waving due to wind, but rather because of the way it was set up. When the astronauts planted the flag, they twisted and turned the pole to get it into the lunar soil. This motion caused the flag to ripple and appear as though it was waving. Additionally, the lack of atmosphere means that once the flag was disturbed, it continued to move for a longer period than it would on Earth. The flag was mounted on a telescopic pole with a horizontal crossbar to ensure it flew proudly. This design choice was made because without wind, a flag would simply hang limply. The crossbar allowed the flag to be displayed as if it were flying, creating the iconic image we all recognize. The astronauts had to adjust the flag several times to get it to stand upright, which added to the movement seen in the footage. The wrinkles and ripples in the flag, mistaken for wind-blown movement, are simply the result of the fabric settling after being unfurled in the low-gravity environment. The moon's gravity is only about 1/6 of Earth's, which means that objects behave differently. The flag's fabric, once disturbed, took longer to come to rest, creating the illusion of movement. This phenomenon is a fascinating example of how different physical conditions can lead to unexpected visual effects. Another common assertion revolves around the lack of a blast crater under the lunar module. Skeptics argue that the powerful descent engines should have left a noticeable mark on the lunar surface. They point to the absence of a crater as evidence that the landing was faked, suggesting that the module was lowered into place using cranes or other equipment. Conspiracy theorists argue that the powerful descent engines should have carved a significant crater into the lunar surface. They believe that the lack of such a crater is a clear indication that the landing did not occur as described. This argument is often accompanied by detailed analyses of the lunar module's design and the expected impact of its engines. However, this claim neglects the reality of the moon's environment. The lunar surface is covered in a fine, powdery regolith, which behaves differently than Earth's soil. The descent engines were designed to throttle down as the module approached the surface, minimizing the impact. This careful control of the engine's thrust prevented the creation of a large crater. The lunar surface is covered in a fine, powdery regolith, which would have been blown away by the engine exhaust, leaving a subtle depression rather than a deep crater. The regolith's unique properties mean that it does not compact in the same way as Earth's soil. Instead, it disperses easily, creating a smooth landing area. The footprints left by the astronauts provide further evidence of the regolith's consistency, showing how it holds impressions without forming deep craters. The persistence of the moon landing hoax, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, highlights a fundamental aspect of human psychology. Our need to find meaning and patterns, even where none exist. We are drawn to narratives that challenge the status quo, especially when those narratives confirm our existing biases or distrust of authority. Conspiracy theories offer a sense of control in a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable. By believing in a grand conspiracy, we can imagine ourselves as privy to secret knowledge, possessing a deeper understanding of the world than the sheeple who accept the official narrative. This feeling of superiority can be intoxicating, making it very difficult to relinquish even in the face of contradictory evidence.